Welcome back. We are breaking this incident down into three critical parts. First, we examine the legality of the stop and why the officer had no right to detain them. Second, you'll see the shocking moment the officer realizes he's harassing undercover agents, transporting a dangerous felon. Finally, stick around for the last section, where I calculate the massive financial lawsuit this hunch could cost the department. Let's dive in.
Yes, and he looks scared to death, and it's making me wonder if we have a scenario here. And so I didn't know if you even knew each other. You guys have just met recently. Did you? It's no problem.
No. This situation begins with a classic example of a consensual encounter escalating into an unlawful detention based on nothing more than a police officer's subjective interpretation of body language. Under the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, a law enforcement officer cannot detain individuals without reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime has been, is being, or is about to be committed. As we watch the footage, the officer admits that his entire basis for approaching these three men is that one looks nervous and the others look stoic. This is a critical error in modern policing. Being nervous on an airplane is not a crime. Being serious or stoic while traveling is not a crime. The officer attempts to manufacture suspicion by claiming nothing adds up, yet the passengers have valid boarding passes and are sitting peacefully. For an audience that values civil liberties, this behavior is alarming because it borders on racial profiling and harassment. The officer ignores the logical explanation that perhaps these men just don't want to talk to him, and instead creates a scenario in his head about kidnapping or trafficking. He presses them, asking if they know each other and commenting on their demeanor. The men, who we can see are trying to remain low profile, are rightfully annoyed. They assert their rights by stating they are traveling together and that there is no problem. However, the officer refuses to accept their answers. He states, "You don't look like you're having a good time," as if enjoying a flight is a legal requirement. This section highlights a dangerous disconnect where an officer believes his authority overrides a citizen's right to be left alone. He is fishing for a crime that does not exist, and in doing so, he is creating a disturbance where there wasn't one before. This is the definition of a bad stop, and in a court of law, any evidence gathered from this point forward would likely be fruit of the poisonous tree, because the initial justification for the interrogation is constitutionally weak. He is escalating a situation based on a hunch, which is a liability for his department and a violation of the passenger's privacy.
Wait, stop for a moment. If this officer found cash in your pocket right now, could you legally stop him from seizing it? Civil asset forfeiture allows police to take your savings without even charging you with a crime, and hiring a lawyer to fight it costs over $300 an hour. That is why I created the Anti-Seizure Cash Protection System. It is a complete legal toolkit containing the exact scripts and packaging protocols you need to bulletproof your assets against seizure. For just $27, which is less than 10 minutes of a lawyer's time, you can protect your hard-earned money from legalized highway robbery. Get your copy of the Anti-Seizure Cash Protection System at the link below. And now, enjoy the rest of the video.
What are we, bro? What is that? I don't care what necklace you have. What are you trying to flex on?
Relax, okay? Relax. We're here undercover. We're transporting a real dangerous guy.
You're doing.
The situation takes a dramatic and dangerous turn in the second part of the video when the passenger in the Lakers shirt decides to end the charade. The irony here is palpable. The officer thought he was saving a victim from kidnappers, but in reality, he was interfering with federal agents or officers doing a high-risk prisoner transport. When the man finally reveals, "We're undercover, transporting a dangerous felon," the entire dynamic of the interaction shatters. The nervous man wasn't a kidnapping victim. He was a prisoner who was likely terrified of going to prison or acting out because he was restrained. The stoic men were not criminals. They were professionals focused on a serious job. The officer's face drops as he realizes he has just committed a cardinal sin in law enforcement. He blew the cover of undercover agents in a crowded public space. This is not just embarrassing, it is a life-threatening error. By forcing them to identify themselves and speak about their mission loudly on a commercial flight, the officer alerted every passenger on that plane that a dangerous felon was on board. This creates panic and potentially exposes the agents to retaliation if the prisoner has associates on the flight. The man in the Lakers shirt tries to de-escalate by telling the officer to relax, flashing his credentials or badge to signal the officer to back off. The officer's reaction is defensive. He claims he's just investigating, but his investigation has now endangered the safety of the flight. This moment highlights the lack of interagency communication and the arrogance of the responding officer. Instead of pulling one aside quietly or speaking to the flight crew, he made a public spectacle. The agents are clearly frustrated because their operation relies on anonymity, and this uniformed officer has stripped that away. It serves as a stark reminder that sometimes the police can be the biggest obstacle to law enforcement operations when they act on impulse rather than intelligence.
I'm not trying to harass. I'm just trying to make it make sense, man. I'm sorry. I see y'all. No disrespect.
Now we arrive at the most important part of this analysis, the financial and legal fallout. If the agency transporting the prisoner or the individuals involved were to file a lawsuit, or if the prisoner used this breach of protocol to sue for unsafe conditions, the numbers could be astronomical. We are looking at a potential civil rights lawsuit under 42 U.S. Code, Section 1983, for the violation of the Fourth Amendment, specifically unreasonable seizure and harassment. Furthermore, there is a strong case for negligence per se, an intentional infliction of emotional distress. Let's talk numbers. In cases where police negligence compromises the safety of other officers or federal agents, settlements can range widely. If this was a mere harassment case, we might see a settlement in the range of $50,000 to $150,000. However, because this officer potentially endangered the lives of everyone on the plane by exposing a dangerous felon and compromising a federal operation, the liability skyrockets. If the nervous prisoner were to sue claiming his safety was put at risk, or if the agents sued for the breach of their cover causing professional harm, the department could be liable for damages upwards of $2.5 million to $5 million. We have seen similar cases where failure to train is cited. The department is responsible for teaching officers how to recognize federal transports and how to approach suspicious persons without escalating the danger. This officer failed on both counts. He did not have qualified immunity for the latter part of the interaction because a reasonable officer would have disengaged once the boarding passes were verified and no crime was observed. By continuing to harass them, he stepped outside the bounds of his legal protection. In a jury trial, explaining that an officer was so desperate to find a crime that he almost caused a panic on a Boeing 737 is a losing battle for the city's attorneys. The taxpayers are the ones who ultimately foot the bill for this incompetence. When you combine the legal fees, the emotional distress damages, and the punitive damages for the violation of rights, the total cost of this 5-minute conversation could easily surpass $2,500,000. It is a very expensive lesson in minding your own business when no crime has been committed.